All right, welcome back everyone. In our last session, we really dug into how to find and measure project risks. Now we get to what I think is the most interesting part. What do you actually do about them? This is where we shift gears from just analyzing to actively making decisions. And honestly, this is where a great project manager really shines, especially when things start to go sideways.
So, we've laid all the groundwork, right? We've done the heavy lifting of identifying our risks and then assessing just how big of a deal they are. That part was absolutely crucial. But now, it's time to move from analysis into action. Today, we're zeroing in on steps 3 and 4, crafting a smart response and then keeping everything under control. This is where the real strategy comes into play.
And that really brings us to the million-dollar question. So, you've got your list, you've got your scores, you probably even have a fancy color-coded heat map showing what's scary and what's not. But here's the thing, a list doesn't actually solve any problems. The real question is, now what? What moves do you make? And how on earth do you choose the right one? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about making that jump from planning to actually doing something. Then, I'm going to give you a complete toolkit of risk strategies you can use. After that, we'll look at how to build a safety net for your project. We'll also cover the most important document in this whole project, the risk register. And we'll wrap up with how you stay in control when the project is in full swing.
So, let's kick things off with our first section, moving from plan to action. You know, it's one thing to point at a potential problem on a spreadsheet. It's a whole other ballgame to have a concrete, ready-to-go plan that you can roll out the second you need it. Let's dig into how you build that kind of response.
Now, for what I think is the most practical part of this whole talk, I'm about to hand you the essential toolkit that every single project manager needs. These are the core strategies you are going to use for the rest of your career, not just for dealing with threats, but for grabbing opportunities too.
And I love this slide because it illustrates the main idea so perfectly. See, risk isn't just about bad stuff happening. It's a two-sided coin. On one side, you have threats, the downside risks, where your main goal is to protect the project. But on the other side, you've got opportunities, the upside risks, where your goal is to actually capture some benefit. The key takeaway? For every defensive move you have for a threat, there's an opposite offensive move for an opportunity.
Okay, let's start with the threats. You've basically got 4 options. First, you can avoid it. This means you change your project plan to just eliminate the risk entirely. For example, you might swap out some brand new, unproven technology for something you know actually works. Second, you can transfer it. Think of this as making it someone else's problem, like buying insurance or using a fixed-price contract. Third, you can mitigate it. This is all about making the risk smaller, either by reducing the odds of it happening or by lessening the impact if it does. And finally, you can accept it. Now, that doesn't mean ignoring it. It just means you don't do anything proactively, but you have a rock-solid contingency plan ready to go.
Now, let's look at the mirror image for opportunities. It's pretty cool how this works. Instead of avoiding a threat, you exploit an opportunity. You go all in to make sure that good thing happens, like putting your absolute best people on a critical task. Instead of mitigating, you enhance. You try to increase the chances or the positive payoff of that opportunity. Sharing is the flip side of transferring. You might form a partnership or a joint venture to grab a new market together. And just like with threats, you can also accept an opportunity. You don't spend resources chasing it, but you're ready to pounce if it happens to fall into your lap.
So, how do you pick which strategy to use? Well, you follow the golden rule, the cost-effectiveness rule. It's really simple. The cost of your response cannot be more than the risk is worth. And how do you figure that out? You multiply the probability by the financial impact. You just wouldn't spend $1,000 to fix a $100 problem, right? This matrix here is your cheat sheet. For something with a high impact and a high probability, you've got to avoid or mitigate. For a low probability but totally catastrophic risk, you probably want to transfer it, or at least have a very serious backup plan.
Okay, so once you've picked your strategy, especially for those risks you decide to accept, you can't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. Nope, you need a safety net. Think of this as your project's own insurance policy, built out of really detailed contingency plans and some carefully managed reserve funds.
A contingency plan is basically your in-case-of-emergency break-glass playbook, but it has to be super specific. First, it needs a trigger, a clear, observable signal that tells you, hey, this risk is happening right now. It needs clear response actions, an owner who's responsible for making it happen, the right resources set aside, and you need to know what the outcome should be. If you're missing any of those 5 pieces, it's not a plan, it's just a wish list.
Now this is a really interesting slide because it shows that a project's extra cash isn't just one big slush fund. It's actually divided up. You have budget reserves, which the project manager controls, and that's for specific identified risks. Then you have management reserves.
This is controlled by the project sponsor or senior management, and it's for the completely unforeseen problems, the unknown unknowns. And of course, you have time buffers built into the schedule to absorb any delays. Okay, if you remember only one thing about reserves from today, please let it be this. Budget reserves are for the known risks, the stuff you've already put on your risk register. You, as the project manager, control that pot of money. Management reserves, that's for the big surprises, the stuff that nobody saw coming. And to get your hands on that money, you have to go ask senior management. Understanding this difference is absolutely critical for any PM.
So, all of these plans, all of these reserves, they all need a home. And that brings us to what is basically the central nervous system of this whole process, the risk register. I really want you to stop thinking of this as just some boring spreadsheet you fill out once. It's not. It's the project's living, breathing playbook.
A good risk register tells the entire life story of a risk, and it follows it through 4 key stages. It starts with identification. What is this thing? Then the pre-response assessment. How big and bad is it? Third is the risk response. What are we going to do about it? And finally, post-response. Okay, we did our plan. What happened? This structure makes sure that nothing falls through the cracks.
And this quote, it's the absolute truth. A risk register that just sits on a server collecting digital dust is completely worthless. Its value comes from being a living document. You should be looking at it at every major project meeting, after every single change request, and any time a risk actually happens. It's a tool for active management, not a check-the-box assignment.
Which brings us to our final section, where all of this planning really comes together. Look, having a great plan and a detailed register is one thing, but staying in active control of it all day in and day out, that's the real challenge. This is all about execution and constant monitoring. Staying in control really boils down to doing these 5 things over and over. You have to be watching for those trigger events we talked about. When one goes off, you launch that contingency plan right away, no hesitation. You have to be constantly scanning the horizon for new risks. You must have a formal process for managing any and all changes. And finally, you have to report and communicate constantly. Creating an environment where people feel safe to raise a red flag is probably your best early warning system.
And here's a non-negotiable rule I want you to take with you into your careers. A stakeholder comes to you and asks for a small change. That's fine, but that change request does not get approved ever until you have done a risk assessment on it. I promise you, this one discipline will save you from more late project disasters than almost anything else you do.
So let's bring it all home. What did we learn? We've got our 8 core strategies, 4 for threats, 4 for opportunities. We've got the cost-effectiveness rule to guide our choices. We know what makes a good contingency plan and the different kinds of money in our safety net. And we now understand that the risk register has to be a living document and that we have to stay in active control. These right here are the pillars of professional risk management.
So I'll leave you with a final thought experiment. Imagine you're running a project, and out of nowhere, a massive problem hits. Something huge that nobody saw coming. It's definitely not on your risk register. Knowing what you now know about things like management reserves, change control, and communication, what is your very first move? Have a think about that. Thanks, everyone.